Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all about good communication, parenting, child development through the lens of self-government. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about how do children learn values. So if you've joined me for my video on how to teach values to children, this one ought to be interesting for you. We're going to be talking about values a little bit more and then making sure that we understand what goes on inside the children when you are doing that values teaching. Values is a term that people use to describe things that are important to them or some of the standards that they live by. So one standard that I live by is duty. I feel like people should do their duty and that people should make the world a better place. So I feel like I have a duty to leave the world a better place. That's one of my guiding values. That's actually why I make these videos and why I even care about helping other families with their children with all of the parenting teaching that I do. I also believe in understanding other people and taking the time to understand people. That's one of my guiding values as well. And so I spend a lot of time helping others in the multiple different areas of my life. We all value certain things. And when you understand what it really means to value something, you're saying, what is it that you think has the most worth? What do you think is the most useful to focus on in your daily life? I remember years ago when I was asked to go to China to speak there to people about child rearing and helping to train children to care about what their parents were teaching them, because there was some conflict that people were worried about that were asking me to come there. The people inviting me said, you know, we're having a problem because our children really are not having good values. They don't have the value of work. They don't have the values of caring about other people. And I said, oh yeah, we've got some entitlement, right? So people can take imposter values, like things like, oh, I deserve. And they can say, that's one of my values, is that I deserve. But that's not actually a really great value. It's not going to lead to goodness. So keep that in mind. When children learn values, what they're looking for is something that gets them something, okay? That helps them feel like they're growing or learning or achieving in some way. In fact, we're all looking for that. Every person is hardwired to look for more truths, or at the very least, our brains are hardwired to look for things that are more convenient. So strategically, how do we get more of what we want or what we might like? So if the wrong values are presented at the wrong time, a child could actually learn entitlement and selfishness, and that being deserving, you know, is their guiding value, or that they shouldn't have to work, that somebody should do something for them. So they could learn laziness and take it on as one of their values. So all the more reasons parents have to be very deliberate in the values training that they do for their children. So when a parent is teaching a value, whether it's through example or through story, and you're having a discussion about this particular topic, what is going on inside of the child? So we're going to talk about what's going on inside of the child, but before we do, click that subscribe button now. There are a lot of great videos on this channel that talk about things that can help you have a better relationship with your child and help you teach your child the things that they need for success. You're not going to want to miss those, so click subscribe now. My dad was a great communicator. Sometimes he would communicate a little bit too much and he would do lectures. And this was sometimes counterproductive for what he wanted to accomplish. I knew Dad was right. I knew he was teaching me values and principles that were going to be helpful for my life, but I didn't always listen to everything that he had to say. And I didn't always want to show him. But I got to tell you something. I really vividly remember hearing him tell me certain lessons and what I would do inside my head. So I remember one time when I said a word that was not kind. It was true, but it wasn't kind. And I said this phrase to Dad. It was about somebody else, and I said it in front of somebody else. And I remember Dad said to me, Nicholeen, there's a time and a place for everything. And this is neither the time nor the place for that statement. Ooh, the truth of that hit me So true. There is a time and a place for everything. And that was a truth that Dad was giving to me right then. It was golden. And I remember at that moment when I learned that truth, I examined myself. What did I just do? Why did I just do it? What should I have done instead? Now, sometimes Dad's going to tell me what I should have done instead, but he didn't even need to at that time. When he declared there's a time and a place for everything, this wasn't the time or place, I immediately thought to myself, what is the time and place? Oh, probably at home when I'm just alone with Dad, I can express how I felt about what that person said, or I could pull him aside. But doing it in front of the person is not good manners, right? And is counterproductive. Even though that person probably did learn how other people were processing what they said at the time. He told me so many things. He used to say, Nicholeen, it's more important for you to keep your goals high. He taught me about living according to goals. And he said when people create goals and shoot high for their goals, they have more of a chance of accomplishing them than shooting for low goals and hitting those straight on. In fact, he had a way of saying it that was, I guess, a little bit poetic, maybe comical, but he would say, it's better to shoot for the stars and hit a pile of manure than shoot for the manure and hit it head on. And I thought, that's true. Who wants to hit a pile of manure head on? But when he would teach me in that way, I would think, that's true. If I shoot for something that's really low, and is below my ability, then I'm really just hurting myself. I'm making my own life hard or yucky, or I'm not accomplishing anything great. He taught me these things. These were principles that I needed for success, and they ended up becoming values that I would live by. I would respect people in conversation. That was an important value. And I would make sure that I kept setting goals for myself, and I would shoot for high goals, knowing that I could always accomplish more in the long run than I thought might even be possible right now. Thank you to my dad who taught me those things, right? Those were great lessons, and I processed them in ways where I applied them to myself. Most people, when you tell them a truth, will immediately think of the opposite, and then they will think how it applies to what just happened and maybe to how they can change things in the future. Now, there's something else that parents can do in order to help their children create a mindset where they will learn values in this method. When I was doing treatment foster care for troubled teens, I wanted them to help develop their prefrontal cortexes so that they would be discerning, so that they would be able to have some deductive reasoning about some of the teaching moments that we would have. And so I taught them an exercise that we called SODAs. SODAs was an acronym. It was a problem-solving exercise. The acronym stood for situation, options, disadvantages, advantages, solution. And what I would do is I would say, this is the situation that we're presented with. What are our options? They would give me multiple options that they had. And then I would say, what are the disadvantages to every option? What are the advantages to every option? And then I would say, what is your solution? And then we would discuss the solution. Now you might be wondering, how in the world does this relate to values? But it actually does, because as we would go through these mental exercises with the children, then later if I declared a truth to them, something like, oh, that statement is not honest, then immediately they would say, oh, wait, that statement she's saying isn't honest. When I thought of something to say there, what were my options? Could I have said something else? So we started training their brains to think in some of these other patterns. And when I correct my children, I do something similar. So I say, this is what happened. This is why it wasn't a good idea. This is what should have happened. And then we move on to some of the consequences and future training so that they wouldn't have a problem in the future. Children absolutely can learn to train their brains in a certain direction so that when values training occurs, they can process it more deeply. Now, let's say that you haven't done any of that type of training for your children. How are they going to learn values? One of the best ways to learn values, if you haven't done any of that type of training yet, is to praise the good that you see. When you see other people that are doing good things and living according to value, then you praise it. When a person senses that somebody else is getting good, positive attention for living or doing something a certain way, then they naturally want to duplicate it to see if they can get that positive attention too. So as you praise children multiple times each day, they will hopefully be learning why it is that they want to be making a better decision. They'll get better attention from you, and hopefully you're also giving them a good heartfelt rationale for why that attention is good to seek. I've been mentioning a few things like sodas and correcting children and formats for that. I actually have a lot of formats for teaching children self-government. Self-government is a principle that leads a person to freedom and better decision making. And there are a lot of skills that are very useful. Those skills will help a person live more according to their values. Skills like accepting no answers, following instructions, meaning following through with the plans that you hope to follow through with because you have values you want to live by. These could be very useful for your children. So if you've enjoyed this video, I know you'll love the next video, which is the not so known secret for parenting success. So click on the link to that video now, and you will learn more skills for teaching your children self-mastery, which should improve your overall values training.